morning.
Ohio. Ohayou gozaimasu. Today's the day that I'm going to Toronto to apply for my student visa, submit all the documents, the application form, everything like that. 行きましょう. People always ask where my hometown is, and in comparison to Toronto, well, maybe I'll show you the distance here. Alright, as promised, go get some gasoline. Just like that. All right, let's continue. We're getting close. About 10 minutes away now. We've entered Toronto, and we just gotta get off the highway and park. Live in this building right here back in the day, just on the other side on the 3rd floor. That was about 15 years ago. And there's one of my favorite buildings on the whole planet. The Rogers Center, or the Sky Dome as us old schoolers call it.
右方向出口です。
Hey, welcome to Toronto. Hello.
Bring this September 25th. Pick up pizza. Okay, thank you so much. You have a nice day.
Going to a language school?
Yes.
One photo?
Yes.
You made a critical mistake here.
Uh-oh.
Your date of birth, 2023.
No, that's wrong. I was not born.
You're too tall for that.
I think so.
So
Oh,
that
no.
This is?
It should be. Sorry.
Too?
Yes. And I think I need to sign that one as well.
Okay, on the second page.
Yes.
sign like the way you did here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Little pen. All right. Thank you.
And you were in Japan for 1 year?
I was, yeah.
What did you do?
I was working on a working holiday visa.
Departure date is October 1st?
Well, that's actually the arrival date. The departure date might be 2 days before that.
Is it going to be Fukuoka? You're going to Fukuoka?
Yes.
Name or airline?
I haven't chosen a flight yet, but it's probably going to be ANA, I think. But I'm not 100% at the moment.
Okay, so Mr. Mukaisak, you can come back on the 25th between these business hours.
Okay.
Bring this.
Okay.
And between this, or 25th or anytime after.
And after, not before. Okay.
Okay, so that's it. You are done.
I appreciate it. Thank you so
I
much.
just have to make sure that you give me the right phone number
Yeah.
just in case.
That's a home number,
Yeah.
and that the cell phone's probably easier.
Number right?
Yes. Yes, both of them are right.
Okay, that's it then.
And everything else is correct. I didn't miss anything else, I don't think.
Daniel, okay, you have no actually James here.
Daniel James McIsaac, yeah.
So I just have to scratch James as well. I will just have to stick to the passport name.
Okay. Okay.
Sorry about that. So I just have to scratch this.
Okay, that's okay.
Okay, Daniel.
Yeah, that's correct.
That's fine.
Everything's okay?
Yes, that's okay. You
Okay.
go by Daniel.
Well, yeah, I prefer Dan, but Daniel's my given name, yeah.
That's good.
So 25th, and anytime.
Anytime between
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
口が新しい。
I gotta admit, that was a little nerve-wracking. The way the consulate works is that they have 2 blocks of time. They have a morning time and then an afternoon time to make appointments. And mine was set for 11:45 this morning. And we're just 10 after 12 at the moment. So they actually close at 12 o'clock for lunchtime so they can have a break, and then they resume, I think, at 1:30. I gotta double check that so they can, have a break and everything like that. And do everything they got to do. So they made my appointment, pretty much the last appointment, right up to 11:45. I had to rush up there, and then there's a security check, a very quick security check. I just have to unload all my metal stuff in my bag and everything like that, and then walk through a security checkpoint. That takes 30 seconds. And then there was one person in front of me, and by this point, it's like a minute to 12. So I'm thinking, are they gonna shut the window? Am I not gonna make it through? But thankfully the lady still took me. I was the last person to be accepted, so there was no one behind me either. I was literally the last person, except I think there was somebody next to me who was probably renewing their passport, an expat from overseas, it seemed like. So she took all my paperwork, and then wouldn't you know it, that there was a mistake. Actually 2 mistakes technically on my paperwork. One of them was my birth date, genius me put 2023 because I was used to writing that date and thought that hey, maybe that's just the date that I'm submitting it on. But I still wrote my month and day, but not the year. So she said, I think you're a little too tall to be born a month ago, which you never know. I wasn't born yesterday. So anyway, we corrected it. The second thing was my name. I had the first name, the middle name, and the last name. On the passport, I'm pretty sure it has my middle name. I think I put my full legal name on there. I've looked at my passport so many times, and for some reason I still can't remember the number on it, and I can't remember my name. Anyway, she initially wrote it down how it's supposed to show up on the visa itself, and then she realized that the way that I wrote it on the application form versus how it's on my passport is different, because I guess my middle name is not on my passport. So we had to erase that part, and then she just said this is how your visa will be processed under Daniel. I don't go by Daniel anymore. When I lived in Japan before, I actually did change my name to Daniel. I thought it sounded more professional and more mature to be called Daniel. And of course, when I get over there, as I start to meet some friends, they say, if you go by Dan, why didn't you just leave it as Dan? It's easier to pronounce. I'm like, oh, great. Well, I put that on all my official documents by this point. So about a year, maybe half a year, or actually, no, I think just before returning to Canada in 2017, I think I decided to change my name back to just Dan, so it'd be easier. So since then, I've been just going as Dan, but when I was overseas, it was Daniel. Anyway, I do prefer Dan. Even when I was working on the cruise ships, people would still call me Daniel because that was the name that was on all my paperwork. Even though my name tag always just said Dan, people said, oh, this guy's name's Daniel, so we'll just call him Daniel. Anyway, dropped off the paperwork. The whole process probably took 3 minutes maybe. Still very nerve-wracking. I hope there's no more mistakes or anything is left out. But she did say that I can return on the 25th, which is 10 days away from now. That's a big chunk of time. I understand that today is Friday. They're probably not going to be processing anything today. And then there's next week, which is 5 days in that week. And then it'll have to be the next week. So the 25th. And I'm planning to fly out on the 30th at the latest. So that gives me enough time to jet back to Toronto, pick up the visa and passport, book my flight, arrange all my last minute stuff, and go. It's enough time. It's just, I wish I had the visa yesterday, you know? Just so that I have it. It's the big link in the chain that needs to be completed before anything else. She even actually asked me which airline I'm flying with, and I kind of thought, well, I don't have one booked, because even on your website it says that you advise against booking a flight until the visa is actually received. Because if I book a flight and then I get denied the visa, now I'm out $1,500 for a flight that I cannot use. And I guess maybe there's some backlash on their end that maybe people like me attempt to try and get reimbursed or whatever, so it's not worth the hassle. So they just say, don't book your flight, don't call us, we'll call you, get the visa first and then book your flight. My timeline becomes very strict at that point because I get the visa 5 days before I want to fly out. So at that point it'll be a last minute flight, which means it'll be a more expensive flight. I think when I was looking maybe 6 or 7 months ago, I was looking at flights one way. They weren't so bad. I think they were around, I think the lowest one I actually found might have been even in the $700 range, $800 range maybe. But even then, I didn't necessarily know my dates, so I couldn't book it out. And now, about a week ago when I was looking, I think flights were anywhere from about $1,200 to $1,500 Canadian dollars. So I'll have to look again to see what they're at. But basically, if she's telling me the 25th, I'm gonna bank on that. I'm pretty sure I'm going to get it. There's no reason why I would be denied at this point, unless there's any additional typos on my paperwork. So I'm gonna bank on that, book the flight, get all my last minute stuff, pack up, and fly out of here. You know what though? I do love Toronto too. I've lived in 3 major cities in Canada: Calgary, Toronto, Vancouver. Toronto, in my opinion, is the best that Canada has to offer. And I've been to Montreal, but that's not really Canada, is it? You know, when I was living in Osaka for the year that I was there, between Osaka and Tokyo, about the 8-month mark, I started to miss Toronto. Even though I flew from Vancouver, I had been out of Toronto for 4 years at that point. And I was in Vancouver for about 3.5 years, and then I was in Japan for almost a year at that point. And I really started to miss Toronto. I've never been homesick about a place before. And I really started to feel homesick about Toronto. When I finally came back to Canada, and I visited for a while, I visited a friend in Toronto as well. And I had to walk through some of the areas where I was very familiar with, and I was like, Toronto's dirty. But yeah, and then I kind of decided, no, Japan's better. I'd prefer Japan. So got my homesickness out of the way, and I put my heart into Japan since then, and it's been a long journey to get back. So we're not there yet, close, but so far. So close, yet so far. You know, I'd love to show you around the city. Maybe I'll do that when I come and pick up the visa. I really want to meet up with a friend of mine, but he hasn't called me back, so just waiting for his follow-up. I don't really want to walk around the city alone today, so I think I'm going to head back to my hometown, and yeah, I think I'll make a more concerted trip the next week that I'm out here. Toronto's not dirty, not like New York. It's just in comparison to Japan and the areas that I was visiting that day. See, it's not dirty. Just your typical metropolitan Canadian major city. Huh? There's a place called Kyoto. Kyoto. Okay, so we are at Bay and Front Street, a very major intersection here. And over here, the CN Tower. Being in a major city too, it's always under constant construction. Something's always happening. I think ever since I've lived here, Union finally looks different. This area of Front Street. I don't know, it's been a long time since I've been down this way. But I don't really remember these meridians. Looks good though. I said I wasn't going to walk around, and here I am. Walking around. This building here is the famous, the Fairmont Royal York Hotel. You know, the Toronto Film Festival is happening now too. The TIFF. And when I was in Busan a month ago, they had the BIFF. You know, actually, I don't think there is a fee for the visa. I'm trying to remember. I don't remember seeing any documentation of there being a fee, and I think when I got my working holiday back in the day, did I have to pay for that? I don't remember. Maybe there's no fee for it. Huh. This one here is the Metro Toronto Convention Center. Another beautiful building. It's pretty incredible, actually. Just for sheer size of it. There's actually two buildings. There's an A side and a B side. And at one point, I think it's the B side that goes down, I don't know how many stories, 10 more maybe? It's pretty deep underground. Really incredible building. I used to work in here. We're still on Front Street walking towards John. This is the CBC building, Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. And the famous Glenn Gould Studio, right there. Now since we're down here, may as well have a look at my favorite building on the planet. affectionately called the home of the Toronto Blue Jays. World Series champions, back-to-back, 92-93. I never really looked at a breakdown of this. I always just named them myself. The waiver, the pointer, oh no, V for victory, cameraman, nose stemmer, and man and boy. Get an upbeat and lively family, you can audition for Family Feud Canada. Okay, that's it. We're gonna head back home. You know, I actually don't really want to leave. I prefer to stay in Toronto, but I don't really have any plan here, so I'm gonna go back. Well, give or take, that's about how much it was about 85 kilometers. One way. Center by CN Tower. CN Tower. Behind this truck is the Toronto International Airport. So if I don't see you now, I'll see you in a couple weeks. I'm gonna visit my sister and brother-in-law tonight after dinner, so I'm gonna pick up a bottle of wine or two for them. And in Ontario we have the LCBO, the Liquor Control Board of Ontario. I know zero about wine, but I do prefer white, so I'm just gonna get whatever. Something from Chile? Yeah, this looks fine. Just coming out of the liquor store there, and I bumped into a guy I went to high school with a long time ago. And actually his older brother was one of my teachers in elementary school. So, small world. That's it. I'm gonna wrap this one here today. Thanks for joining me for the last 2 days. And I hope you stick around for the next ones. Thank you so much. Arigatou gozaimasu.